What these entitled boys didn't know was that Harper had spent 12 years mastering Muay Thai under her grandmother's tutelage, and in exactly 7 seconds, Connor would learn why you never corner a fighter who's been hiding her true strength. Harper's Tuesday had started like any other at Ridgemont Academy, the prestigious private school nestled in the mountains of Copper Falls, Colorado. At 6:45 a.m., she'd parked her rusted 2004 Honda Civic between a gleaming Tesla and a $60,000 BMW. The contrast as stark as her presence in this world of generational wealth. The September air bit through her second-hand cheer warm-ups, but she'd grown used to the cold, both meteorological and social, since transferring here on an athletic scholarship 3 months ago. The metallic scrape of scissors against Harper Sinclair's neck sent ice through her veins as 3 varsity jackets surrounded her in Ridgemont Academy's empty chemistry lab. "Pretty ponytail you got there." "Scholarship trash," Connor Blackwood sneered. His father's construction empire, giving him the confidence to assault a cheerleader in broad daylight at 3:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. The mahogany-paneled hallways of Ridgemont echoed with a particular brand of privilege, where students discussed gap years in Switzerland and complained about which Ivy League legacy admission to accept. Harper navigated these corridors like a ghost, her honey-blonde ponytail swaying with each step, her gray eyes carefully neutral to avoid drawing attention. Harper documented everything in a password-protected folder, her grandmother's military precision serving her well. But today, Connor had escalated beyond anything she'd anticipated. Harper had stayed after school to finish a lab report, needing the A to maintain her 3.8 GPA requirement for the scholarship. The chemistry lab was supposed to be locked, but Connor's best friend Marcus Chen, whose mother sat on the school board, had keys to everywhere. She'd been bent over her notebook, calculating molecular weights, when she heard the door click shut behind her, working hard. "Sinclair?" Connor's voice dripped with the particular brand of condescension reserved for those who actually needed to work. "That's the difference between us. You know, you have to try so hard just to stay afloat here." Harper didn't look up from her calculations. "I'm busy." "Connor, whatever you want." The answer is still no. "See, that's your problem." The scrape of stool legs against linoleum made her shoulders tense. Marcus Chen and Ethan Bradshaw had positioned themselves by the other exit's coordinated effort. "You think you get to say no to me? You think that scholarship makes you equal to us? I think being human makes me equal to you," Harper replied evenly, though her hand had shifted imperceptibly closer to the glass beaker beside her potential weapon if needed. "Now please leave. I have work to finish." Connor stood, his 6'2" frame casting a shadow over her workstation. From his pocket, he pulled out a pair of scissors, not safety scissors, but sharp fabric shears from the theater department. The fluorescent lights caught the blades as he opened and closed them with deliberate menace. "You know what your problem is? Scholarship?" He moved closer, Marcus and Ethan closing in from the sides. "You don't understand the natural order here. Some people are born to lead, and others." He reached out with his free hand toward her ponytail. "Others need to be reminded of their place." Harper's body shifted minutely, weight transferring to the balls of her feet. Every nerve was alive, calculating distances, angles, escape routes. But she gave him one last chance. "Connor, think about what you're doing. This is assault. There are cameras. Cameras can malfunction." Marcus said with a tech genius's confidence, "Files can disappear. Who's going to believe the desperate scholarship girl over us?" Connor's hand closed on her ponytail, yanking her head back. The scissors moved toward her hair, and Harper heard Ethan laugh, nervous but complicit. Time slowed as her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. "When they put hands on you, baby girl, you put them down. No hesitation. No mercy until the threat is neutralized." The scissors were 2 inches from her hair when Harper exploded into motion. Her elbow drove backward into Connor's solar plexus with the precision of 1,000 morning drills. As he doubled over, gasping, she pivoted on her left foot, her right shin connecting with his wrist in a textbook Muay Thai kick. The scissors flew across the room, clattering against the periodic table poster with a sound like breaking bones. Marcus lunged forward, but Harper was already moving. She grabbed his reaching arm, used his momentum against him, and sent him crashing into the lab bench. Beakers shattered, the sound crystalline and final. Ethan, the smallest of the three, took one look at his friends on the ground and made for the door. But Harper's voice stopped him cold. "You run, and I chase. You stay, and we sort this out like civilized people." The steel in her voice was pure Nana Sinclair. Ethan froze, hands up in surrender. Connor wheezed from the floor, his face a mask of shock and pain. You can't. My father will." "Your father will what?" Harper pulled out her phone, showing the recording app that had been running since she'd heard the door lock. "Explain why his son assaulted a female student with a weapon, justify attempted battery, or maybe he'll try to explain why Marcus here just admitted to planning to tamper with security footage." She looked at each of them in turn, her gray eyes cold as mountain stone. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get up. Slowly. You're going to leave this lab and never come within 10 feet of me again. If you talk to me, look at me wrong, or even breathe in my direction. This recording goes to the police, the school board, and every news outlet in Colorado. Are we clear?" Connor struggled to his feet, one hand clutching his stomach. The arrogance had drained from his face, replaced by something Harper recognized: fear. For the first time in his life, someone had shown him that money couldn't buy everything, that there were consequences his father couldn't purchase away. "You just ended your time at Ridgemont," he spat, trying to salvage some dignity. "No scholarship trash attacks a Blackwood and survives." Harper smiled then, the expression sharp as winter moonlight. "See, that's where you're wrong. Connor, I didn't attack anyone. I defended myself against 3 male students who cornered me with a weapon. The recording makes that very clear. But please, do try to spin this. I'm sure the Title IX investigators will find your version fascinating." She bent down, picked up her lab report with steady hands, and placed it in her backpack. The 3 boys remained frozen, processing the complete reversal of their planned ambush. Harper shouldered her bag and walked toward the door, pausing at the threshold. "Oh, and Connor, that natural order you mentioned, it just changed." She left them there among the broken glass and shattered egos, her footsteps echoing down the empty hallway. But as Harper turned the corner, she nearly collided with someone unexpected. Dr. Patricia Winters, the school's dean of students, stood there with an expression that was unreadable. "Miss Sinclair," the dean said quietly, "I think we need to talk." Harper's heart hammered against her ribs. How long had Dr. Winters been there? What had she seen? The older woman's eyes flicked toward the chemistry lab, where the sounds of Connor and his friends stirring could be heard. "Ma'am, I can explain." "No need." Dr. Winters held up a hand. "I saw enough. My office. Please. There are some things about Ridgemont Academy and the Blackwood family that you need to know." As Harper followed the dean down the corridor, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You have no idea what you just started. The Blackwoods own this town. Watch your back." But another notification followed immediately after. This one from a contact labeled Nana. "Heard there was trouble at school. Remember what I taught you. The fight's not over when they're down. It's over when they can't get back up. Come home. We need to prepare for what's next." Harper's reflection in the trophy case showed a girl who looked exactly the same as she had this morning, blonde ponytail intact. Sheer uniform pristina. But something fundamental had shifted. The careful invisibility she'd maintained for 3 months was shattered, and there would be no going back to hiding. Dr. Winter's office occupied a corner of the administrative wing, its windows overlooking the mountains that gave Copper Falls its name. The dean closed the door with a soft click that somehow sounded final, then moved to her desk with the measured steps of someone choosing their words carefully. "Sit, please." She gestured to a leather chair that probably cost more than Harper's father made in a month. Would you like some water? Tea? I'm fine. Thank you. Harper remained standing, every muscle ready for flight or fight. Am I being expelled? A bitter smile crossed Dr. Winter's face. For defending yourself against assault? Hardly, though I'm sure that's exactly what the Blackwood family will demand within the hour. She moved to the window, gazing out at the pristine campus. Tell me, Miss Sinclair, what do you know about Ridgemont's history? It was founded in 1928 by copper mining families. It's produced 7 governors, 12 senators, and more CEOs than any other prep school west of the Mississippi. Harper recited the statistics from the school's promotional materials, the official history, yes, but not the real one. Dr. Winters turned back, her expression grave. Ridgemont Academy was built on a simple principle: those with power protect each other, and those without it serve or disappear. The Blackwood family has embodied that principle for 4 generations. Harper's phone buzzed again. 3 messages in quick succession. You're done here. Connor, my mom already knows. School board emergency meeting tonight. Marcus. Should have just said yes. Unknown number. Doctor. Winters noticed her checking the screen. They're moving fast. Faster than usual. You must have really frightened them. There was something almost like approval in her voice. Connor isn't used to consequences. None of them are. Why are you telling me this? Harper asked. Aren't you part of the system here? I've been dean of students for 15 years. Doctor, Winters replied, I've watched the Blackwoods and families like them destroy dozens of students who dared to challenge their authority. Scholarship kids who reported harassment found their grades mysteriously dropping. Girls who rejected the wrong boys found themselves isolated, terrorized, driven out. And every time I tried to intervene, I was reminded that my position exists at the pleasure of the board. She opened a desk drawer, pulling out a thick folder. But I've been documenting everything, every complaint that was buried, every victim who was silenced, every abuse of power. I've been waiting for someone strong enough to be the catalyst for change. Her eyes met Harper's. I think that someone just announced herself in the chemistry lab. Harper stared at the folder, understanding the magnitude of what was being offered. This is evidence of systemic abuse. Why haven't you? Because I was alone. Because whistleblowers without allies don't survive. They just disappear. But you're not alone anymore. Miss Sinclair, that display of yours? It's already spreading through the school. There are other students victims of Connor and boys like him who've been waiting for someone to show them it's possible to fight back. A knock at the door interrupted them. Doctor, Winter's assistant peered in, looking nervous. Ma'am, Principal Morrison is here. He says it's urgent. Of course it is. Doctor, Winters slid the folder across to Harper. Take this. Make copies. Share them with people you trust. What happens next will happen fast. And we need to be ready. Harper grabbed the folder, her mind racing. What about my scholarship? My father can't afford. Your scholarship is safe, as long as I'm dean. But my position won't be safe much longer. Not after tonight's board meeting. Doctor. Winters moved toward the door, then paused. There's a storage room in the basement of the library, behind the archived periodicals, climate-controlled. Locked. Forgotten. Security cameras don't cover it. If you need a place to hide things or yourself, the key code is 1945. Before Harper could respond, the door opened fully. Principal Morrison stood there, his usually genial face tight with barely controlled anger. Behind him, Harper glimpsed 2 security guards. Miss Sinclair, the principal said with forced calm, there's been a serious allegation of assault. You need to come with security while we investigate. Investigate? Dr. Winters stepped forward. I've already reviewed the security footage from the chemistry lab. It clearly shows the footage is corrupted. Morrison cut her off. Some kind of technical glitch. Very unfortunate. All we have are the testimonies of 3 upstanding young men who say they were attacked without provocation. Harper felt the weight of her phone in her pocket. The recording's safe for now. But she also understood the game being played. This wasn't about truth. It was about power, and the Blackwoods were flexing theirs. "I'll come willingly," Harper said, clutching the folder tighter. "But I'm calling my grandmother to meet me. And my lawyer." Morrison's eye twitched. "Lawyer? That seems excessive for a simple school discipline matter, does it?" Harper pulled out her phone, making sure Morrison saw her starting another recording. 3 male students cornering a female student with a weapon seems like a criminal matter to me. But I'm happy to let the police make that determination. The security guards shifted uncomfortably. They were rent-a-cops, not prepared for a situation that might involve actual law enforcement. Morrison's face darkened further. "There's no need for police involvement. This is an internal matter." "Actually," a new voice interrupted. "I've already called them." Everyone turned to see Coach Rebecca Torres, Harper's cheerleading coach, striding down the hallway with her phone in hand. Behind her, impossibly, walked half the cheerleading squad, including several girls Harper had assumed were firmly in Connor's social circle. "Rebecca," Morrison started, but Coach Torres held up a hand. "That's Coach Torres. Richard, and I've just finished speaking with Detective Sarah Chenyas, Marcus's aunt, about the assault on one of my cheerleaders. She's very interested in reviewing all available evidence, corrupted or otherwise." Madison Wellington, the cheer captain whose father owned the largest ski resort in Colorado, stepped forward. "We were in the locker room when Harper came to get her things after the lab incident. We saw the marks on her neck where Connor grabbed her. We took photos, and we have screenshots," added Chloe Pemberton, whose family's pharmaceutical fortune made them Ridgemont royalty, of the group chat, where Connor planned the whole thing, including Marcus bragging about disabling the cameras. Morrison looked like he'd swallowed glass. "Ladies, I'm sure you're misunderstanding. Are we?" Another cheerleader, Sophia Reeves, held up her phone. "Because I have video of Connor showing off those scissors at lunch, saying he was going to teach the scholarship girl a lesson she'd never forget." Harper stared at her teammates in shock. These girls had barely spoken to her in 3 months, maintaining the careful social distance required between scholarship kids and the elite, but now they stood behind her like an army in pleated skirts and matching hair ribbons. Madison caught her eye and gave a small nod. The message was clear. Connor went too far. Even we have limits. Principal Morrison seemed to deflate. The security guards backed away, clearly wanting no part of whatever was unfolding. Dr. Winters stepped forward, her voice professionally neutral but her eyes gleaming. "Perhaps we should all adjourn to the conference room until the police arrive. I'll have my assistant bring coffee. This is going to be a long evening." As they moved down the hallway in a strange procession, Harper surrounded by cheerleaders like a protective detail, Morrison trailing behind like a man walking to his execution, Harper's phone rang. Nana's name flashed on the screen. "Baby girl." Her grandmother's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "I'm 10 minutes out with our lawyer. Don't say another word until we get there. And Harper, I'm proud of you. Your mother would be too." The mention of her mother, gone 5 years now from cancer, made Harper's eyes sting. But she blinked back the tears. There would be time for emotion later. Right now, she was in the fight of her life. And everything Nana had taught her about strategy and survival was about to be put to the test. The conference room filled quickly. Parents arrived in wavesome, summoned by their children. Others by the police presence that had materialized in the parking lot. Connor Blackwood Sr. swept in with a team of lawyers, his face a mask of cold fury. But for every power player who arrived to protect the status quo, another unexpected ally appeared. Teachers Harper had never spoken to nodded at her supportively. Students she'd barely noticed filmed everything on their phones. The janitor who worked nights slipped Dr. Winters a USB drive with whispered words about backup footage from the old system. As Harper sat between her grandmother, 72 years old, and still radiating the controlled power of a career military officer, and their lawyer, she realized something profound was happening. Her single act of self-defense had become something larger. The careful structure of power at Ridgemont Academy, built on fear and silence and complicity, was beginning to crack. Connor sat across the massive conference table, his earlier arrogance replaced by sullen silence. His father's lawyers whispered urgently, but Harper could see the calculation in their eyes. This wasn't playing out as planned. The cheerleader's testimony, the recovered footage, the detective taking statements, it was all spinning beyond their control. "This is ridiculous," Connor Sr. finally exploded. "Some scholarship girl attacks my son, and suddenly she's the victim? We fund this school. We built this school. Without families like mine, Ridgemont is nothing. Without families like yours." Dr. Winters said quietly, "Ridgemont could be what it claims to be, a place of excellence and opportunity for all students, not just those born to privilege." The room erupted in arguments. Parents shouted about donations and legacy admissions. Teachers spoke about hostile environments and Title IX violations. Through it all, Harper sat silent, observing. This was another kind of fight, one where words were weapons and alliances shifted like sand. Her phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. She expected another threat, but what she read made her blood run cold. "Check the news. Now." "A friend." Harper pulled up the local news site on her phone, and her heart stopped. The headline screamed across the screen, "Ridgemont Academy cheerleader brutally attacks 3 students. Exclusive video." The attached video was grainy, clearly edited. It showed only Harper's strikes, not the provocation. Connor appeared to be innocently holding scissors-craft scissors. The footage had been doctored to show when Harper seemingly attacked without reason. The comments were already flooding in, calling for her arrest, her expulsion, her scholarship to be revoked. "Nana?" Harper whispered, showing her grandmother the phone. The older woman's expression didn't change, but her hand found Harper's under the table, squeezing once. "Steady. Baby girl." This is when the real fight begins. Across the table, Connor Sr. was smiling now, his phone also in hand. "I believe the court of public opinion has spoken clearly. This violent individual has no place at Ridgemont Academy." But before anyone could respond, the conference room door burst open. A young woman in a rumpled suit rushed in, laptop under her arm, press credentials swinging from her neck. "Sorry I'm late," she panted. "Traffic from Denver was murder. I'm Jessica Park, investigative reporter for the Colorado Tribune. I believe someone here has evidence of systematic abuse and cover-ups at Ridgemont Academy." Every head in the room swiveled to stare at Harper. She looked at the folder still clutched in her hands, then at the faces around the table, some hopeful, some terrified, some furious. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. Harper stood slowly, her grandmother's training echoing in her mind. "When you're outnumbered and outgunned, change the battlefield." "I do," Harper said clearly, "and I'm prepared to share everything." The room exploded again. But now Harper saw something new in Connor's eyes, genuine fear. His father's lawyers were frantically making phone calls. Principal Morrison had gone pale as death. The power structure of Ridgemont Academy, seemingly invincible just hours ago, was about to face its reckoning. But as Harper began to speak, as the reporter's recorder captured every word, she noticed something else. Connor was texting rapidly under the table, and the look he shot her wasn't just afraid, it was vindictive. Whatever happened next, he wasn't going down without a fight. The cheerleaders closed ranks around Harper as the meeting descended into chaos. Parents threatened lawsuits. The police tried to maintain order. Through it all, the truth spilled out like water through a broken dam, carrying with it decades of secrets. And somewhere in the mountains above Copper Falls, storm clouds gathered, promising that the weather wasn't the only thing about to break at Ridgemont Academy. The edited video had gone viral within hours. By 10 p.m. that night, number Ridgemont Attack was trending nationally, with keyboard warriors dissecting every frame of Harper's defensive strikes while conveniently ignoring the context. Harper sat in her grandmother's kitchen, watching her phone explode with notifications, death threats, mixed with messages of support, reporters requesting interviews, and legal notices from the Blackwood family's attorneys. "Turn it off, baby girl," Nana said, sliding a mug of chamomile tea across the worn wooden table. "The digital mob will tire themselves out. Real battles aren't won on social media." But Harper couldn't look away from the destruction of her reputation in real time. Someone had doxed her father's workplace, posting photos of him in his warehouse uniform with captions about violent genes and trash breeding trash. Her scholarship email account was flooded with demands for her removal. Even supportive comments were being ratioed into oblivion by what seemed like an army of bots. "They're trying to destroy me before the truth can come out," Harper said quietly. "Make me so toxic that nobody will listen to the evidence. Then we give them something they can't ignore." Nana pulled out her own phone, scrolling through contacts with military efficiency. Time to call in some favors? The next morning, Harper arrived at school to find news vans lining the circular drive like predators at a watering hole. Someone had leaked her schedule, and reporters shouted questions as she walked past. "Did you attack those boys unprovoked? Are you trained in martial arts? How does it feel to assault the son of the town's biggest employer?" But Harper wasn't alone. Madison Wellington and 6 other cheerleaders flanked her in a protective formation, their matching uniforms creating a wall of burgundy and gold. When a particularly aggressive photographer got too close, Chloe Pemberton stepped forward with practiced ease. "I believe you're trespassing on private property," Chloe said sweetly, her phone already recording. "My father's lawyers would love to discuss the legal implications of harassing minors. Shall I call them?" The photographer backed off, but the damage was spreading. Inside Ridgemont's halls, the student body was split into factions. Connor's supporters wore hastily made Justice for Connor buttons, while a growing resistance sported Believe Survivors pins that had mysteriously appeared in lockers overnight. Harper's first class was AP Chemistry in the same lab where everything had started. She paused at the door, memories of yesterday's violence making her hands shake, but inside, she found an unexpected sight. Dr. Patricia Winters standing at the front of the class. "Good morning, Miss Sinclair," the dean said calmly. "Mr. Peterson had a family emergency, so I'll be covering his classes today." The look she gave Harper said the emergency was more strategic than sudden. "Please take your seat. We have much to discuss about chemical reactions, particularly the explosive ones." As Harper sat, she noticed something else. Every desk had a printed packet. The title page read, "Ridgemont Academy Incident Reports, 2019-2024. Dr. Winters had distributed her evidence to the entire class. "Before we begin today's lesson," Dr. Winters announced, "I think it's important we discuss the chemistry of power structures, how seemingly stable compounds can become volatile when a catalyst is introduced." She clicked to a PowerPoint slide showing security footage timestamps. "Can anyone identify the catalyst in yesterday's reaction?" Connor's friend Tyler Morrison shot to his feet. "This is inappropriate. You can't." "Sit down, Mr. Morrison." Dr. Winters' voice could have frozen helium. "Or shall we discuss your role in last year's incident with Jennifer Huang? Page 47 of your packet. If you're curious, tu le sais." His face draining of color, the class proceeded in surreal fashion, Dr. Winters teaching actual chemistry while weaving in examples from the incident reports. By the time the bell rang, every student understood that the evidence wasn't just about Connorit, was about a system that had protected predators for generations. In the hallway, Harper found Jessica Park, the Tribune reporter, interviewing students. The narrative was shifting. The edited video was being challenged by witness testimonies, security footage from neighboring businesses, and a growing chorus of former Ridgemont students sharing their own stories online. But Connor Blackwood wasn't finished. During lunch, Harper was summoned to Principal Morrison's office. She arrived to find a scene from a legal thriller. Connor Sr., and his team of lawyers on one side, her grandmother and their attorney on the other, and Detective Chen reviewing documents in the middle. Miss Sinclair, Connor Sr. began without preamble. I'm prepared to make you an offer. Drop all allegations against my son, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and transfer to another school. In exchange, I'll cover your full tuition at any prep school in the country, plus a $50,000 settlement for your troubles. Interesting, Nana said before Harper could respond. You're offering to pay my granddaughter to disappear. In my day, we called that witness tampering. I call it pragmatism. Connor Sr. shot back. Your granddaughter assaulted 3 students. The video evidence, the doctored video? Detective Chen interrupted. The one our tech experts have already proven was edited using software purchased with Marcus Chen's credit card? That evidence? The room went silent. Marcus's involvement in creating the fake video had just implicated him in a criminal conspiracy. Connor Sr. His lawyers huddled, whispering urgently. Furthermore, Detective Chen continued, we've recovered the original security footage from the chemistry lab. Multiple angles. Audio included. Would you like to see your son planning an assault with a weapon? Mr. Blackwood? But before anyone could respond, the fire alarm shrieked through the building. Not a drill Harper could smell smoke. As everyone evacuated, she noticed Connor Jr. wasn't with his father's group. A cold dread settled in her stomach. Outside, as students gathered on the athletic field, Harper saw him. Connor stood on the roof of the science building, 4 stories up, a can of gasoline in one hand and a lighter in the other. He'd set fire to the chemistry lab, destroying evidence, making a statement, or maybe just embracing the destruction of everything he'd built. Harper Sinclair! He screamed, his voice carrying across the crowd. You did this! You destroyed everything! He held the lighter high. If I'm going down, I'm taking this whole place with me. Chows erupted. Students screamed. Teachers tried to maintain order. Fire trucks wailed in the distance. But Harper found herself moving forward, pushing through the crowd. Her grandmother's hand caught her arm. Baby girl, no. Let the professionals. He's going to jump. Nana. Harper had seen that look before. In her mother's eyes, near the end, when the pain became too much, someone has to try. She broke free, running toward the building. Behind her, she heard Madison Wellington organizing the cheerleaders to clear a landing zone. Coach Torres was already coordinating with arriving EMTs, even in chaos. The community Harper had accidentally built was responding. The roof access was through the maintenance stairs. Harper took them 3 at a time. Her legs burning, she could hear Connor above, ranting about respect and legacy and the natural order. By the time she reached the roof door, Herr Lunks were screaming. Connor stood at the edge, teetering. The gasoline can was empty. He'd doused himself. One spark, and he'd be a human torch. Don't come closer, he shrieked. This is your fault. You're right, Harper said. Surprising him, it is my fault. Connor turned slightly, confusion replacing rage. What? I fought back. I refused to be your victim. I exposed the truth. Harper took a careful step forward. And now you have to face consequences for the first time in your life. That's terrifying, isn't it? Shut up! The lighter wavered in his hand. You don't understand. My father, me future, everything's gone. Your future isn't gone. Connor, it's just different than you planned. Another step? You're 18. You can choose to be better than your father. You can choose to break the cycle. What cycle? Tears streamed down his face. This is who I am, who my family is. No, Harper said firmly, it's who your family was. You can choose who you'll be. She was close enough now to see the lighter trembling in his grip. One wrong move, and they'd both be engulfed. In the distance, she could hear helicopters' news crews capturing every moment. I recorded everything, Connor said suddenly. Not just yesterday. Everything. Every girl my dad paid off. Every incident the school covered up. Every time he told me this was how real men acted, he laughed bitterly. I thought if I had leverage, I'd be safe. But you can't blackmail the whole world. Then use it differently, Harper urged. Turn state's evidence. Help Detective Chen. Help the other victims get justice. They'll destroy me. They're already trying to destroy both of us, Harper pointed out. But look down there. She gestured carefully to the crowd below. See those people? Some are here for the spectacle. Sure, but others, they're here because they care, because they want things to change. You could be part of that change. Connor looked down at the sea of faces. His father was there, shouting something that the wind carried away. But so were the cheerleaders. Holding hands in a circle, so were teachers and students and parents who'd been silent too long. "He don't deserve forgiveness," he whispered. "Maybe not," Harper agreed. "But you deserve the chance to earn it." The lighter slipped from his fingers. Clattering across the rooftop, Connor collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Harper kicked the lighter away and sat beside him, maintaining distance but presence. They stayed like that until the firefighters arrived. Two teenagers on a roof, united in the strangest way possible by the collapse of everything they'd known. The next hours blurred together. Connor was taken for psychiatric evaluation, but not before handing Detective Chen a USB drive containing what he called the real Ridgemont files. Harper gave her statement to what felt like a dozen different officials. The chemistry lab was a total loss, but the evidence had been preserved in multiple locations. Doctor.com. Winters had learned from experience. By evening, the story had transformed. The doctored video was exposed as a fraud. Connor's recordings revealed a web of corruption, extending far beyond Ridgemont Academy. 3 school board members resigned before sunset. Principal Morrison was placed on administrative leave. Connor Blackwood Sr. was arrested on charges ranging from bribery to conspiracy to commit assault. But the real change came from the students. That night, someone organized a candlelight vigil on the football field. What started as a few dozen supporters grew to hundreds. Harper stood with her grandmother, watching survivors share their stories. Some were recent graduates. Others were parents who'd been students decades ago. All had been silenced by the Blackwood machine. Madison Wellington took the microphone, her usual polish replaced by raw honesty. "I've been Connor Blackwood's friend since kindergarten. I've watched him hurt people and said nothing because that's what we were taught. Protect our own. Maintain the system." But Harper Sinclair showed us another way. She showed us that fighting back is possible, that change is possible. One by one, students came forward. Tyler Morrison apologized publicly for his role in the harassment. Marcus Chen admitted to creating the fake video and pledged to testify against Connor Sr. Even Ethan Bradshaw, who tried to run from the chemistry lab, stood up and owned his complicity. "This isn't about Harper anymore," Coach Torres said when it was her turn to speak. "This is about all of us deciding what kind of school, what kind of community we want to be." Dr. Winters, reinstated as interim principal by an emergency school board vote, announced immediate changes: mandatory consent education, an independent review board for all complaints, scholarship protection programs, and a complete overhaul of the disciplinary system. But the most powerful moment came when Connor Blackwood Jr., released from psychiatric hold, appeared at the edge of the gathering. Security moved to intercept him, but Harper raised a hand, let him through. Connor approached the microphone like a man walking to his execution. His father's lawyers had undoubtedly told him to say nothing, to admit nothing. But as he looked out at the crowd, at the faces of people he'd hurt, people who'd enabled him, people who'd finally said enough, something shifted in his expression. "I'm sorry," he began, his voice cracking. "Those words aren't enough. They'll never be enough. But I need to say them." He looked directly at Harper. "You asked me on the roof to be part of the change? I want to try. I have recordings, documents, evidence of everything my father and his friends have done, not just at Ridgemont, but throughout Copper Falls. I'm turning it all over to the authorities. The crowd was silent, processing this reversal. Connor continued, "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I can help make sure this never happens again. My family built their empire on silence and fear. Maybe I can help tear it down." He walked away without waiting for response. But Harper saw something in the set of his shoulders, not the swagger of entitlement, but the weight of accountability. It was a start. The weeks that followed brought seismic changes. The Tribune's investigation, fueled by Dr. Winter's evidence and Connor's recordings, exposed corruption throughout Copper Falls. The Blackwood Empire crumbled as business partners fled, and authorities froze assets. Other prominent families faced their own reckonings as victims found courage to speak. Harper returned to a transformed Ridgemont Academy. She was elected student body president in a landslide, running on a platform of inclusivity and accountability. The cheerleading team, under her co-captaincy with Madison, became known for their community service as much as their competitions. The scholarship program expanded, bringing in students who would have never dared apply before. Connor Blackwood Jr. transferred to a public school 2 towns over, living with an aunt while his father awaited trial. He volunteered at a domestic violence shelter, attended therapy religiously, and slowly began the work of becoming someone new. He and Harper never became friendsome wounds, cut too deep, but they achieved something like understanding. Dr. Patricia Winters was officially named Principal of Ridgemont Academy. Her first act was to commission a new school motto, Excellence Through Equity. Her second was to establish the Harper Sinclair Courage Award for students who stood up against injustice. On graduation day, Harper stood at the podium as valedictorian, looking out at a sea of faces that had once seemed hostile, but now felt like community. Her grandmother sat in the front row, tears of pride streaming down her weathered face. Her father had taken the day off work, his new job at a tech company that valued integrity over connections. Even her cheerleading teammates from public school had come to support her. 2 years ago, Harper began. "I walked into Ridgemont Academy, believing I had to hide who I was to survive here. I thought strength meant invisibility, that safety meant silence. I was wrong." She found Connor in the crowd. He'd received special permission to attend. Their eyes met, and he nodded once. Acknowledgement of a shared history, a mutual understanding that some stories don't have clean endings. Real strength, Harper continued, isn't about physical power or social position. It's about standing up for what's right, even when you're standing alone. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. It's about choosing to break cycles of abuse instead of perpetuating them. The speech went on, touching on growth and change and the power of community. But Harper's mind drifted to that moment in the chemistry lab when time had slowed and she'd made a choice. One defensive strike had toppled an empire, not through violence but through the courage it inspired in others. After the ceremony, as families gathered for photos and tears, Jessica Park approached with a familiar notebook. "So," the reporter said with a smile, "ready to tell me what's next for the girl who changed Ridgemont Academy?" Harper grinned, adjusting her graduation cap. "Law school. Eventually. But first, I'm teaching self-defense at my grandmother's new studio. We're offering free classes to high school students." She paused, looking back at the school that had nearly broken her, but instead had forged her into something stronger. Turns out, a lot of people want to learn how to fight back. "And Connor Blackwood Jr.?" Jessica asked carefully. "Any thoughts on his transformation?" "People can change," Harper said simply. "Whether they do or not is up to them. All we can control is whether we give them the space to try." As she walked away with her family, Harper's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She almost ignored it. She'd learned to be wary of anonymous contacts, but something made her look. "Thank you for showing me that strength isn't about power over others. It's about power over yourself. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn the second chance you helped give me. C.B." Harper deleted the message without responding. Some conversations were better left unfinished. but as she linked arms with her grandmother and father, walking toward a future bright with possibility, she allowed herself one last look back at Ridgemont Academy. The school stood unchanged, architecturally still, all red brick and privilege, but Harper knew that within those walls, everything was different. Students who would have been victims were learning to defend themselves. Administrators who would have been silent were speaking up. A culture of complicity was becoming one of accountability. It had started with scissors and a ponytail, with a girl who refused to be victimized, but it had become something so much bigger, a revolution of courage that rippled out from one moment of self-defense to transform an entire community. "You did good, baby girl," Nana said softly. "Your mother would be so proud. We all did good." Harper corrected, thinking of every person who'd chosen to stand with her instead of against her. That's how change really happens. Together. The sun set over Copper Falls, painting Ridgemont Academy in shades of gold and possibility, and Harper Sinclair, the scholarship girl who dared to fight back, walked toward her future, knowing that sometimes the most powerful punch you can throw is the truth. In the end, she'd kept her ponytail, but she'd cut away something far more important, the silence that had protected predators for generations, and in its place, she'd helped grow something new, a community where every student's no was respected, where scholarship kids could thrive alongside legacy students, where strength was measured not by what you could take, but by what you could give. The revolution at Ridgemont Academy was complete, but for Harper Sinclair, the fight for justice was just beginning.